plasma just arrived. And there are many ways to build them, so let's check that with a little tutorial. Gmodism. So, the plasma is out in the alpha branch. So you'll need to go to your Steam and select the alpha branch. If you want to get plasma to play with already, they already have textures. Another YouTuber called Lathrix has got some early access, so you may have seen the system a little bit earlier. But other than that, this might be your first look at the plasma. And if this is your first look, and if this is the first time you ever heard of the plasma, let me tell you that plasma is a new little system in like the game here. So here we have missiles, lasers, particle cannons, and now plasma cannons. And the plasma cannon is again another independent system, and in this little video I'm going to teach you how to build some weapons with it and what all of these different blocks does. So here we are on this little platform as a clean slate where we will test the plasma system. Now, to begin with, why does the plasma system even exist? Well, let's just give a quick rundown on what the different weapons does. Simple weapons is your simple weapons for dealing low damage for very small vehicles or against aircraft. Cram cannons is of course the heavy hitter to deal a lot of damage for really big battles. See the Gimli Battles series, for example, if you didn't check that out. It's ongoing. Advanced cannons is everyone's favorite, almost. It's kind of World War II cannons, but with the railgun stuff, so you can modify stuff and shells a lot. It's very versatile. Missiles are also very versatile, but you can run away from them much easier. Very good to pack a punch for a small system. You don't need a big system to deal a lot of damage with missiles. Laser systems is just burning away slowly or short lasing, but yeah, it's just constant DPS. Works pretty well. Particle cannons are a lot versatile. You can do a lot of them, almost too much, to the point that they are a bit boring. They don't deal a lot of damage, but their advantage is you can't defend yourself from it. And now, what does plasma cannon does? Well, what the plasma cannon does is deal a lot of damage to very clustered armor blocks. From what I understand it, the plasma system was added in order to remove the unfair advantage that heavy armor wedges, frontsiders and stuff like that had. So with this plasma you can destroy a lot of cluster armor blocks more efficiently. Now, I would say that probably really bulky armor is probably more of an unfair advantage, and the really bulky armor is actually got lots of benefits with the plasma system. Now, you won't take that out very easy with this. That's why the Gimli does unintentionally have an advantage, as someone a little bit into the development told me. Yeah, but in any case, bulk I'd say is more unfair, but what the hell. Here we have the plasma system, and it's really good against dense armor. So, what do we have here? We have a lot of parts, and what does it do? Well, as you can see here, the particle cannons use energy, the stuff in the batteries, to fire. The laser system, for an unknown reason, uses raw engine power. Don't ask me why. Missiles, advanced cannons and cram cannons, they all use ammunition to fire, as well as simple weapons. Now, the plasma cannons, they use batteries like energy and ammunition. So they both need a lot of ammo barrels, and they also need energy stored in batteries. So you need ammo barrels and batteries and something to charge the batteries with if you want to be able to fire plasma. The first thing that's a little bit different, that kind of strikes us right away when you launch and look at a plasma system, that is that the plasma mantlet is actually also the firing piece. So you will need to select one of these. We have the normal AA mantlet, or that just can point straight upwards as well as forwards and stuff like that. And it can't point down very much. And it can definitely not point to the sides more than 5 degrees. Now, the forward mantle is a little bit more forgiving. It's 35-35 and can even move 20 degrees to the sides. So you will spawn one of these, you can put it in the right direction, like forwards, clicking G, and there you have it. Now the thing is that this thing can have connection downwards and backwards, or dependent on what orientation you put your system at. This can now have connection backwards and upwards. Let's do an uncolored version here so you can see it more clearly. Now, we have accelerators, and these are kind of the barrels, and more about these a little bit later. So for the plasma cannons, you cannot bypass having a mantlet. No idea why you would want to bypass having a mantlet, but you can't. That's the main firing piece also. So then what we basically need to do is we need to have collectors. These collectors have fewer connections that are called foresides, and these collectors, well, they have more connections that are like 6 sides. So that's a little bit confusing, but these normal collectors are the ones that can connect up more to all of the directions. Now the collectors, you can connect them up directly behind the mantlet, but you can also add a bunch of connectors like this. So we have 4-meter connector rods. I think that's pretty cool that we added that. And we also have this connector hub, so basically 6-way connectors like for lasers. And again, you can put the collectors right behind the forward mantlet, but you can also start putting collectors after the like connector blocks, in case you would want to have some distance from the mantlet and the collectors. And like most other systems in From the Depth, you'll need to be careful with the connections here. You can't connect up different mantlets to get a multi-barrel turret like this. You'll need to separate them and making sure that they will not connect to each other. In any case, let's build this turret here, and we can stack the collectors here. So we can add some different, no, we can't stack them like that. We'll need to watch the suction cups, so we can stack them in this direction. And we can also stack them with each other like this. So they are really versatile. The collectors, you can add them away like this. Now on the, like, just add a bunch of them and you'll have a lot of connection points, because on the collectors, the next part will go, and that is the chambers. Now the chambers stores plasma charges. So like with most things in From the Depths, if you don't have a reason to build smaller, use the largest block possible. So each of these have 4 each. There is no advantage with using, or there is nothing different rather, when using 4 1-meter blocks than just using one big rod. Other than that, I expect it has higher health. It doesn't actually have a boosted health, but whatever. It's easier to not get destroyed when we have a big chunk of materials. In any case, here you can see we have chambers and now we have charges. So if we go back to the main system here, we can see we have 12 of total charges. However, we don't have anything that is loading these charges. So we'll just add a bunch here. Of course, this is not the most optimal way to set things up. And as you can see, you can't connect these chambers in any way possible. You'll need to connect them in a specific way with the suction cup down there to one of the sides. Or one of the sides at the top of the collector. These, however, also connect to each other, so you can build tall towers with them like this. And for each tower of chambers, you need at least 1 generator. If you don't have a generator, it will not fill it up with charges. So this is of course not the most optimal thing here, so we'll add a bunch of them so that we can have a faster reload speed here. Now that doesn't add there. There it adds. And as you can see, there are smaller generators too, and the only thing that's different is that all of the stats are halved. So use larger where you can, and you can connect them up to the back and the forwards ports of these chambers like that. and like that. Now you can see it does have 4 charges in each of these. And you might see here that we have 12 of 36 charges. And that is because every arm of chambers needs at least one of this. And yes, if we just have 3 in the top here, it will indeed slowly fill up this entire arm of chambers, but it will do so at a very slow speed, so you probably want to add enough so you can keep up the fire rate. And there we see we waited 2 minutes and it has now filled up 4 of these 8 charges in this tower. So yes, you can do a charge plasma, what you would call a basically the plasma equivalent of a charge laser, I suppose. In any case, that's how to set that up. And these chambers need to be stacked in straight towers because you cannot use connection hubs to bend them again afterwards, like they will not connect. The connectors are only for connecting the mantlet in specifics with collectors further down the lane. And of course, if you want to, you can connect up collectors to other collectors using the connectors, but that's all connectors are for. Just like APS, we have now built an unbalanced system, and that's not, of course, very good. This means that these will store a lot of charges, but they won't reload very fast. So, as usual, try and build balanced systems. But that's basically that. That's how to set up the main things there. You can have more chambers than you have chargers if you want to have a faster rate of fire in the beginning and then have a slow rate of fire. Basically like what you can do if you have railguns and lots of magazines and stuff like that. That's for another video. This is not about APS, this is about plasma only. Anyways, we have some plasma charges, and that's great. What we don't want to do is try to fire this now, because we don't have a barrel. And if you don't have a barrel, also known as an accelerator, the charge will actually stay inside the mantlet. And that means when you try to place your block here, it will just be destroyed by the shot that you put there. So, in any case, you can now see here that we have an inaccuracy of 0.04, which is weird. Usually from the depth, we need really long barrels to have good accuracy. For plasma, this is not the case. You don't need to have a longer barrel than the absolute minimum to get maximum accuracy. No, what controls accuracy is actually heat sinks. Because as the gun gets hot, the accuracy goes down. So, the only place you can have heat sinks on is actually on these accelerators. So, if you want a gun that cools faster, then you need a longer accelerator barrel in order to have loads of coolers. Coolers can be placed on some of the sides of the barrel, like up and down like this, but not also on the sides. So you can see we have coolers here, up and down, and we can't add them to the sides instead. They go up and down. And they don't have to go up and down like that. Now you can actually turn around your barrel just like this, 90 degrees to another direction if you think that looks cooler. And that also decides the placement where you can have your heat sinks, they're called. They're actually called heat sinks, never mind. Oh, and if you already forgot that, remember that you can connect stuff to your gun, to your mantlet rather, in 2 directions. So we can even add it on top of / downwards, because I of course have my mantlet upside down, but here you can see we can add them there. And as we don't have any of the generators here, these particular areas won't actually fill up, in case you wondered. So, what do we do now? Well, now we have a lot of settings to deal with, but let's fire off a few shots just to check. Look at that. It's just firing away. Very cool. So here we have the plasma cannon. What can we do here? We can change the amount of projectiles it uses. We can also change the accelerator energy per charge. So here we talk a little bit more about the accelerators. The more accelerators you have, the more energy you're allowed to use to propel your shot. That means longer barrels means faster shots, or can be faster shots. Here you set the accelerator energy per charge, and the accelerator energy per charge doesn't contribute or change damage at all. It only changes the speed of the shot. So here you can see it also changes the heat generation, because by doing this you're using more energy per second too. So here you can see accelerator max energy per charge. So 450 is the maximum amount of power we are allowed to put into this shot to propel it forwards. If we want to put even more, so now you can see the projectile speed can get to up to 1,800 meters per second. But if we add a few more barrel pieces there, that was one too many, you can see here that the projectile speed can now go up to 2,400 meters per second. That's like a serious railgun. And again, this does not change the damage you deal at all. The only thing it changes is the speed of the shot. So if you're gonna shoot at really slow targets and stuff like that, you can actually drag this down, accelerator energy. And you can see here, it's now going 200 meters per second. Let it go 300 meters per second, and we basically have cram cannon speeds instead of railgun speeds. This also means that the amount of heat we generate per shot is a good bit lower. We're gonna drag it down to 85, just so that you can see the shots in action a little bit better. We're gonna remove them there, because remember, it's only when we have heat sinks on the barrel they actually contribute to the cooling. But I'm going to remove the heat sinks because I want to show you what happens when you don't have any heat sinks at all. Right, so we can also go here in plasma cannon, by the way, of course, and we can go and change the shots. I'm gonna have a green shot. Here we can see, now we need to repair this thing. And you can see they really eat away there. So now we have a kind of machine gun plasma cannon. So what happens if we continue to fire like this? Well, I don't know if we have charges to do this actually. Maybe we do. Oh, you can see we're closing in on max temperature. Oh, what happens? So when you meet your max temperature, your fire rate is getting a little bit capped until the gun has cooled down enough to be able to fire again. So you can also see that the inaccuracy is up to 0.35 degrees because it's hot. And the cooler it gets, the more accurate it will be again. So it's basically like recoil for APS if you have played this game before a bit. So now we add them again, and you can see that the inaccuracy is ticking down as we speak. And our fire rate is back to normal because we are again, now we are out of charges. Now you can see the amount of heat sinks we have right now can keep up our charge rate. So of course we have some generators here that charge up the chambers with shots. And of course these are really slow, so here we have a little bank of extra shots, but as you do remember, we want to have a balanced gun. This is just for testing. In any case, that's basically how to manage that, but now we're going to go into some really interesting things here. If you really need that cooling, you can use more energy for cooling. And as you can see here, you can just drag this slider and you will magically deal more, like have more cooling. The purpose of the heat sinks, however, is to give you cooling that is free. So yes, they cost 400 each, but they will give free cooling, so the heat sinks actually don't use energy. But you can add some cooling here if you want to, like that, and what will happen is that it will use more energy per second, basically. So, and that doesn't affect the damage of the gun, it only affects the energy generation you need on the vehicle you have, alternatively, the size of your battery power bank. So, then we have stuff like idle elevation. This is, of course, regular stuff. Then we also have this thing, the only thing we haven't talked about. Yeah, and that's charges per projectile. Now, before we talk about that, we're just going to talk about all of these things in a little order, just so we make sure. So, idle angle, you know what that is. Energy used for cooling. If you need to cool down your gun, well, then you need to have that. You can have a lower limit than 1000 degrees, because, well, you can't unfortunately remove this, I think. Let's see here. No, you can't. Unfortunately not. So you can't remove the temperature limit, but you can have it at 1000 max. And if you want to make sure that your gun is always accurate, you can make it stop firing when reaching something lower there. So you can see inaccuracy is encroaching 0.15, and now it stops fire here. So then we can make sure that we are firing at a lower base temperature and having more accuracy. If you care more about keeping up the firepower, keeping up the like damage per second for as long as possible, you should leave this at max. If you want to limit the RPM, you can do here. Max is 600. Now, we come to accelerator energy per charge. We talked about that. This is the speed of the projectile. Here we go. Charges used per projectile, the first setting here. You can set this to fire several charges. So for example, if you set it to 4, it will fire one of these banks per shot. Bam! And here you can see it deals a lot of damage. And if you're doing this, you will be able to really penetrate armor here. You can see that we're dealing a lot of damage to the armor going on there, and it's like really, really good at just annihilating dense blocks and dense armor. So you can even do like this. You can use, I don't know how many charges we have available. Let's set this to 16. And you can see we're really getting explosive effects by now. Each shot is like an explosion, and this can really annihilate those heavy armor wedges you have been dealing with. So that can be really efficient indeed. But there is a thing with this that's a lot cooler than it sounds like. Because you can see here that if we have one charge per projectile, we're dealing 805 damage. If we're having 2, we're dealing 1726, which is weird, because 1726 divided by 2 is 863. So we're actually getting a damage bonus doing this. And the armor piercing values of these plasma shots in base armor piercing value is 100, which means that heavy armor, even stacked heavy armor, won't really protect anyone from this. Just like cram shots, these will like basically ignore armor just because the ridiculous amount of armor piercing they have also. So they will deal full damage to almost anything. The only thing they won't deal full damage to, I suppose, is if you have a double stacked heavy armor that's protected with a ring shield, and rarely nobody does this. In any case, the thing is, so if we deal 800 damage per one charge, if we say are firing 10 charges per projectile, then we would expect our damage to be 8,000, but now we can see it's over 10,000. That's over 9,000. So basically, the more charges you're using per projectile, the more damage you will be getting for free. And the heat, you can see heat per shot is 14. If we have 2, it's 28. So the heat is like linear. But the damage is not linear, it's a little bit logarithmic. So the more charges you use, the more damage you can deal. And 36, the top number here, is the amount of charges we have available in the system. So if we're taking the max here and just firing a big bunch there, you can see that's some serious damage. And you can make this go really fast too. I just made this go super slow just so we have time to see what's happening with the shot. Pretty cool. Now, there are actually very few things we have left to check in here. And that's some other stuff here. So here we have a thing that can be added only at the end of your barrel. And this is a magnetic destabilizer. And you can't combine these things. You need to choose either magnetic stabilizer, the magnetic splitter, or the magnetic destabilizer. So basically, the magnetic stabilizer makes it so that the damage won't reduce over time. So the thing with these guns, the reason why you might want to have them firing really quickly, is that the damage they deal is actually decreasing the further away they go, the more distance they travel, or the more time that has passed, rather. So it's not the distance, it's time. These plasma shells, they kind of, I don't know, they just get decompose as they go, and the further they travel, or the longer they travel, I mean, the less damage they will deal. So if you have a really slow shell like this, you can see it deals insane damage. But if this was traveling like very, 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 very far at a really slow speed, so it just spends a minute in flight, the damage would actually drop quite a bit. And using one of these, you can reduce the damage loss by 30% with no disadvantage on anything. Just to look at that, we're now following this plasma shot, and you can see that it's 29 charges. Looks like a super beautiful comet. Oh my god! Is this a thumbnail? I don't know if it is, but that's cool. So you can see the damage is now 30. It's ticking down here, but yeah, 29 going on like that. If we instead remove this thing, we can fire it in case we have our charges ready at some point. Maybe now. We do. So I suppose it's dropping a little bit quicker now. Now I don't have measurements by this, but it's by 30%. So yeah, it should be that. So that is what that does, damage loss reducing. Then we have some crazy stuff, like this thing. This is a magnetic splitter, and this is like, it splits up the shot from the accelerator into multiple projectiles. So this is first time in From the Depth we are actually having a proper shotgun. Look at this. Let's repair this thing. Okay, we need to recharge this thing too. Guess it's time to add these here. Whoops. Just so that we can get a tiny little bit faster action here. Now this is unbalanced, make it balanced. Just like APS, each arm should have the same amount of charges and same amount of generators if you don't have a intention with it. If you want to do a charge gun, well, do it. I mean, but keep in mind that what you're doing, you need to keep it balanced if you want it balanced. There we can see that this magnetic splitter it doesn't like have time to split, I believe. Let's fire this off into the distance a little bit. And you can see, wait a minute. Oh, I guess we can't use like that many charges per projectile, because then it uses up all the charges for one of the projectiles. So let's go like this then. If I go back here, it should now be working perfectly fine. Hey. So basically, let's see here. The total charges are 36, which means that if we want 10 projectile, which is the max, they should be about 3. One thing I do want to know is if we can put in decimals here. We can't. Good to know. So, in any case, it doesn't split up in time, but if you shoot them like this, you can see they are splitting up in the distance. So this should be really effective as anti-air things. So the thing it does, it splits up those projectiles. So as you might imagine, caring too much about inaccuracy when you have a magnetic splitter thing at the end of this accelerator is probably not very important. But do keep in mind that you need some heat sinks, even though you don't care about inaccuracy. You need some heat sinks, or you will, well, your fire rate will be capped after a while. Then there is also the magnetic destabilizer thing here. So the magnetic destabilizer splits a single charge into 2 shots and reduces armor piercing value. So now you can see armor piercing value went from 100 to 20, alright, and splits a single charge into 2 shots. That means that we should be able to have a crazy rate of fire using this thing, right? I suppose. As long as we don't get overheated, we should have a crazy rate of fire. So this is probably for when we want to have maximum fire rate to shoot at stuff. If we compare that, if we take this off, felt like it's like the other way around. Okay, let's do like this. We probably want to go and make sure that we have a, let's see here. Oh, look at that. When we actually added this, I didn't notice that before. When we add the magnetic destabilizer, you can see that charges per projectile option is actually removed. So when we're having a magnetic destabilizer, we are basically forcing every charge to be 2 shots instead of 1. So then we can't adapt it. But that means also that we have a lot of charges to go through here, which means that we can hold this fire rate for quite some time. But that was pretty cool. Magnetic destabilizers forces your charges per shots to be 2 shots per charge, or rather half a charge per shot. And if you go in here, you can see now the charges used per projectile is here again. And also do remember that when we're adding this here, let's see here, not the magnetic splitter, the magnetic destabilizer, we can see on this plasma cannon that I suspect this is a little bit bugged, because damage per shot is now a 19,000. And that's obviously not the case, but this was just added, so yeah, if we see here, damage per shot, 2x. Oh, maybe it was true then. Alright. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Because this is like 18 shots, or 18 charges. Yeah, okay. But 2x, right. Oh, here we can see the damage. Look, if we change this, we can see how many shots we fire each. So it's 1 shot that deals this much damage, 2 dealing this, 3 dealing this. So I do think that 10x, that would amount to 20,000. If we drag this up to 1, it's 50,000. So it seems that the more projectiles we actually split this charge up, the less damage we're actually dealing. So it's like the other way around. The plasma system will punish you for having multiple shots. The fewer stronger shots you have, the more damage you will deal. So having like all the charge in one shot like this, you can see we can deal a lot of damage here. 41,000 going on there. This is another little funny thing. So you can see 41,000, but if we have a shotgun lens and just fires one shot, we can actually make it deal almost 50,000 damage. Now, it comes with a cost. You can see that the inaccuracy went up to 0.53. So you can basically make a slug gun firing a inaccurate but very dangerous slug by using the multiple splitter shotgun lens and just limit it to one shot. So that's another little bonus tip for you. We're gonna go in some more deeper dives and some more tips, but I will just say huge thanks to all my commissioned officers in the army of Gmodism. That is my Patreons. You're helping me very much every month and I'm super thankful, especially to the top level ones: Admiral, Super Dave, Captain Y, Lieutenant Asteria, C2, Cravey, Parby Greed, Tylerus, and Vincent Veritas. You help a lot. So from Lieutenant and above will get mentioned, as you already know if you signed up. But in any case, do also know this for all of you who are commissioned officers. I'm gonna fix this platform up and make it for testing, so when uploading this video you can go into Patreon and all my patrons can download this platform and check it out and test it out yourself. You're gonna see how it looks in the end too. But in any case, thanks for your support. So here we can see the generators can actually be stacked on each other too. So if you want to make sure that you are generating those chambers a little bit quicker than you did previously, you can add a stacked little generator lane on them. And then you can really keep up that firepower. And by the way, if you are thinking that you want to have a little bit more, let's see here, of smoother shots, of course, drag down the charges if you want to have it going smooth. But you can see here that the amount of charges are actually not going down here. So if we're having a system like this, we can probably actually not have that many chambers, but just add more generators instead. The chambers are more cheap, but they're not free exactly, so you don't need to have more chambers than you actually use. So that's like how you find the balance, of course. Here you can see we're going down. And if you want to make sure that you fire continuously, you of course need to adjust the maximum RPM so that you can find a fine balance. For this particular setup, I would expect us to perhaps use 10 charges per shot. Oh, it changes sound with a different size. That's super cool. But yeah, so basically change it like that. And of course, we can make it fire a dual shot like this. Super cool. So it's like a burst gun. This plasma guns are really easy to make burst guns with. Or just space them out. In any case, that's how to set that up, so that's really cool. So this is more like a setup for a continuous fire. So making this fire even faster, well, what do? We add more of generators, of course. And if we add more generators, like we don't have to have equal amount of generators per side, we can have a lot of them spread out like this. And here we can see. Now we can suddenly provide super dangerous globes popping up there in a serious like succession. Very cool. And for plasma guns, do you need to care about EMP? The answer is no, you don't need to care about EMP. They won't take EMP damage. So, now you know. Well, plasma and stuff is really a really cool system. Keep in mind that the costs run away. Each of these cost 800,000. It's just like using belt-fed autoloaders, you know. This system is now 132,000. But of course, it's dealing a lot of damage too. Let's just enjoy. I just love that the blocks are kind of just flying away like this. You can see they're really getting they're really getting some speed added, dependent on like how much they get destroyed. You can see the wood blocks are really flying hard. Yeah, so that's really cool. And yeah, now you can really see that having really bulked up armors in really thick layers is gonna be not very good for those ships. But having spaced armor like this, air gaps, is going to be quite important here. Because no matter how much damage it does, the damage does not travel through the air gap. You can see here, now it's spent. So, I would say that my armor recommendation tutorials in my instant tutorials will be extra more relevant now, because I like to have a very thin outer shell, and that would help you from the initial plasma blast. No matter, oh god, sorry, that was me. No matter how strong the plasma blast is, it's not going to penetrate the first layer, even if it's like 1 meter of wood. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool to know. Here you can see. That's just get annihilated. And it's like still getting penetrated, but you can see this thing also is, but the stone behind it is actually intact. So that's like a really weird damage dealing thing with the plasma that's quite different from anything else. Anyways, we're going to make some different blocks here so that we can check them, compare them to each other, and also, of course, for all the commissioned officers to play around with if they want to. But in any case, or if you want to, because most of you are watching, we do other games on this channel, but I have noticed that many of you who are enjoying my channel are specifically enjoying from the depth, so that's what I mean. Yeah. All right, just a test here. All right. It doesn't. Okay. So if you wondered, smoke doesn't decrease the armor piercing value of plasma blocks. But do also keep in mind that even though we're doing these tests right now, this is alpha test, and there is also a slight possibility stuff will change, you never know. So I built on this a little bit here. Platform 2 plasma test, it's what it's called. So what I basically did was added 2 of the most normal ways to make plasma guns, I guess. They're so new, there is no normal way to do them yet. But either you want a continuous fire thing that will just charge very quickly. You can see this system costs 130,000. And with that, you can fire like this. And here you can also see the tests. When we're firing against heavy armor, you can see how it's really not providing any like valuable protection against plasma. And here you can see here, we can disconnect this block and we can connect this lane here. And this is of course a charge plasma. So this takes ages to charge up. But what we can do, which is pretty cool, is just do like this. And now I think it's lowering its fire due to high temperature. But yeah, we can get through there pretty easily. You can see this is pretty big in bulk and stuff like that. But its cost is only like 50,000, under 50,000. So this is so much more cheap. So as you can guess, if you want to breach through the initial defenses on stuff, you can probably do a charge plasma system like this. And it's easy to switch this. You can even connect up both of them if you want to have a charge and a continuous part. But if we're gonna do like this, of course, we'll need to turn on energy used per cooling to keep that firepower going and not get as inaccurate. I also thought like this for all of the... Like you can find this file in the Patreon files, the normal download location. But I just wanted to have the quick switch so you can switch between some different things. If you want to do that. Now this won't be able to fire all those shells here. Let's drag it down to 3. Bam. This is like scary. That's like some real scary stuff. Let's see here. Yeah. And we can even drag, can remove this thing and add the little thing there. And then we can all of a sudden make really low damage shells instead. But lots of them. Now I think I limited RPM, but yeah. This is like the switching system. I thought it was pretty cool, so you can switch between the thing that takes ages to load and the thing that's just basically continuous, which is not connected now. And then I also wanted to add two other connections, the red and the yellow one. I didn't know what other type I could prefab like this just for testing, but I think here you can experiment with two different designs and compare them to these, if you want to. But in any case, I suppose that's basically that. I have designed so much new merch, you should check it out on the Fourth Wall store. I put it in the description. I spent some time doing some other cool designs, and if you want to support the channel and get something for it, well, then you should probably look and invest in some of our new designs if you'd like to. Also, if you buy something from there, the closest 2 weeks, if anyone buys anything, I will send you a thank you video through their application, because I have it on my phone now. So I can make like thank you shorts and send them via Fourth Wall. It's pretty funny. So I'll do that. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed this. And thanks again to all the commissioned officers. Hope you enjoyed the new plasma, and I do really hope that this general tutorial walked you through each and every little hooks and nooks and crannies. I don't know. I know speak English. But in any case, if you want to have a simple takeaway from this, shotguns are here, which is beautiful. Having bigger shots that use more charges is loads more like efficient than using we can use 200 charges. Like having a big blast will deal so much more damage than several small ones. Wow. Yeah, that's some damage, mate. That's some damage. That's like no heavy armor will protect you anymore. Now you all have to do armor like I do armor. So sorry about that. It wasn't my fault. But anyways, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time. Do leave a like if it helped you, and keep tuned to the channel if you thought this was pretty useful and you haven't seen me before. Hi, I'm Gmodism. Or this is Gmodism. In any case, I'll see you next time. This is your host, Gmodism, and we're signing out. If we can fire again, which we probably can't. Let's fire a smaller shot and just say bye-bye.